Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7 Now. Today, got some more PvE for you guys. This time around, we're going to be covering the Hall of Trials with Rampaging Abyssal Yufine. Now, the Hall of Trials is actually one of my least favorite modes in the entire game, up there with Advent. However, with the revamp here, it actually became a little bit more interesting, and I'm currently in the mood to play, so let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing I'm going to do is cover the mechanics of Abyssal Yufine. I actually just went into combat so I can show you everything here, because the info screen, I couldn't really find everything on there, especially these undispellable mage buffs for you. So yeah, we'll cover the mechanics, then we'll talk about the units, and then I'll show you my full run, where I got over 19 million points. Not the best, but it might be a good starting point for those of you guys who are trying to score a little bit higher. Alright, starting off here with Rampaging Abyssal Yufine, we'll cover her passives. So the first thing is the Harbinger of Frenzy. She takes a turn before the enemy at the start of the battle, as you guys saw when we entered, and it fully resets the skill cooldown of her S3, quote-unquote, Frenzied Strike, before granting final retaliation to the caster. She also reduces the effects of combat readiness increases and health recovery proportional damage dealt granted to all enemies by 50%. So this means if you're using a lifesteal set or something like that, it's going to be cut in half. However, if you're using healing from sources like Achates or sources like Sylvan Sage Vivian, they're not gonna be, because Sylvan Sage's Vivian's heal, for example, will scale based on her attack stat. Meanwhile, Achates' heal isn't proportional to damage dealt, right? It's just based on her own HP stat, which is kind of nice. The final retaliation thing is this dragon looking buff here. So it says at the start of the turn, when the exhaustion count is 0, she grants Berserk. This effect cannot be dispelled even when exhausted. And you can see the Berserk counter on the left here. So it says at the end of the boss's turn, decrease the duration of Berserk by 1. So you essentially have 19 turns to try to kill her. When the duration of Berserk reaches 0, resets all skill cooldowns of the boss and grants Berserk. After attacking, when the boss is granted Berserk, always kills all enemies, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. That just ends the fight right there, and then you go collect your rewards. So next up, we have her next passive, which is Inner Abyss. Whenever she's attacking, she cannot trigger a critical hit, and she increases hit chance by 100%, so you can't cheese her with evasion units. At the end of the enemy's turn, when the caster is not exhausted, she increases combat readiness by 10% and dispels the unable to be buffed from the caster. At the end of the turn, she grants stackable increased attack and speed to the caster. So this is pretty normal here, right? Except this unable to be buffed. Why are they singling that out? Well, the unable to be buffed debuff is actually really crucial to the fight, and we'll get to it. I guess we'll get to it now before we get to the other mechanics. On this box here on the right side, there's the stats of the Abyssal Yufine, so you see that she has 100% effect resistance, and she's immune to all these effects, including defense break, by the way. So if you're not getting defense breaks, don't worry about it. Don't even bother building a unit that defense breaks. Emma Luna has one in her kit, but it's not gonna ever land. The other thing she is immune to is decreased combat readiness effects, increased skill cooldown, so you can't like reset her with Flitic or anything like that, or Lua and whatnot, or Knockwall. And she is also immune to things like Daydream Joker and things that are deal damage proportional to a target's max health. Right? You see that Abyssal Yufine actually has infinite health, so you can get as high as you want in terms of damage. Alright, so on the left side, this is new, okay? You see these defense break icons? This is how you get this Abyssal Yufine to be in the exhausted state. So whenever the boss is attacked by a hero, it increases this gauge by 5%. That's the purple gauge that you see above her. It will increase. You need 20 hits to hit her to get her into that weakened state, right, of exhaustion. Now, this is not affected by extra attacks, dual attacks, or counter attacks, so you can't really cheese this with stuff like Sea Lilius and things like that, right? You can't just, RNG your way through it, and which is a good thing. It's a double-edged sword, right? But it also makes it so that the top-scoring people are a bit more consistent. It's not like you can just be number 1 and undefeated because you had insane RNG with dual attacking and counter attacking, all that stuff, which is kind of nice. Next up, it says when the hero in the back row skill effect makes the boss unable to be buffed, increases exhaustion gauge by 40%. This effect can only be activated once per turn. So this is why I have Emma Luna in the leftmost placement right here on the team. She's a far back unit, okay? whenever she puts her unbuffable on the boss, then they get 40% on that gauge, right? So you actually get a little shortcut into getting her into that exhausted state. The issue is Abyssal Yufine starts the match with immunity, but we'll get to that. Alright, so the two buffs that you get are that if you bring any mage, they will increase their attack and their health by 30%, and it grants this Essence of Magic, which is an undispellable effect. It's unique. The other bonus you get is when 2 or more light elemental heroes are on the team, you increase the attack and speed of all allies by 40%, which is of course great. So you're going to need to bring 2 light mages, and if you don't have Sylvan Sage Vivian or ML Luna, honestly, again, go for Guider Aether and Aeola. All the top scoring people, the top 5 people are all using that team, right? Achates, Alots, Aeola, and Guider Aether, but I'll talk about them in a bit. Alright, so moving on here, we have these buffs, right? So we talked about Final Retaliation, we did talk about the Manic Trauma as well, I think, but after attacking, the Abyssal Yufine ignores effect resistance of the enemy and inflicts bleeding for 2 turns. That's why we got the bleeds here. My Achates has resistance, but it doesn't matter, because Abyssal Yufine ignores it when she has these buffs. The other thing is, this is dispelled when she's attacked by a hero that has no debuffs for the 5th time. Right? That's why you need to bring a consistent cleanser. Achates is the best one. You can't inflict debuffs to the Yufine because she has this immunity that can't be dispelled, right? This is only dispelled when Manic Trauma is dispelled. So again, to get rid of it, you have to hit her 5 times without any debuffs, and then you'll take your Luna or your Aeola and you'll put the unbuffable on the Yufine, and then you'll be good to go, right? So her skills here are pretty straightforward. This is her S2, right? It's an AoE attack, it dispels 2 buffs and inflicts bleed for 2 turns before dispelling 1 debuff from herself. So it's really hard to keep her debuffed, so it's really not advised to use like rage sets and Calandra and stuff like that unless you really know what you're doing, and you can time it really well in the weakened state. But yeah, the bleeds for 2 turns here, it's AoE, right? And it kind of sucks because this bleed doesn't actually count with this bleed here. So when she does the AoE and she has the Manic Trauma, she actually inflicts 2 bleeds for 2 turns, and so you need a full cleanse unit like Achates that's very consistent. Unbridled Outburst is her S1. She actually just attacks the front row unit. It deals additional chip damage as well, but yeah, if your Achates is fairly tanky, you should be fine. And she attacks the front row first. Alright, so the last skill here is Frenzied Strike. She ignores effect resistance, spells everything from your unit before attacking everybody, and she deals this extra kind of splash damage, right? Kind of like if LRK hit you and had a 3F, it procs, does a ton. This additional damage increases each time the skill is used, up to a maximum of 50% of the target's current health, which is really bad. It's basically going to put a lot of pressure on you to stay topped off later on in the match. It's going to be hard to sustain your team. So when she does this S3, she actually gives herself Manic Trauma and immunity back. So that's quite unfortunate. The thing you want to do is you want to get her to the weakened state before she gets that S3 up, ideally, so that you don't have to deal with that increased damage throughout the fight. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the units, and then we'll show you the run. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at the units that I used for this this fight. Now, obviously this can be improved, but this is just giving you guys a little bit of an overview into like what you can do and kind of how the run progresses. Because it took me several times running it to kind of figure it out. So hopefully this will help you guys get accustomed to it a bit faster. Here's my Achates. She's not like built perfectly. If you want optimal effect resistance, it'll be around 200, but again, the boss ignores effect res, so it doesn't really matter all too much. These are pieces of gear that I'm currently using on her, so you don't really need all the effect res, I just have it just in case. Keep in mind that when the boss loses that buff, one of the unique buffs there, you can actually resist the bleeds, so that's only there when the buff's active. I have her on Wondrous Potion Vial. Now it's kind of debatable what you can use here. I did try her on Magaraha's Tome, the one that gives combat readiness when you use a non-attack skill. It was pretty good, actually, but again, keep in mind Abyssal Yufine cuts that combat readiness gain in half, so you are kind of losing some of the perks of that artifact. Wondrous Potion Vial does come in clutch a little bit sometimes, cleansing a unit that goes after Achates without her having to kind of pop her skills. if you cleanse the right unit at the right time, you can actually just get that Abyssal Yufine into that weakened state much quicker. So I kind of do like the Wondrous Potion Vial, but play around with the artifacts and see what you can do. Doctor's Bag I think is a little difficult to time, but I don't think it's a terrible one to use either. Alright, so what we have here is her EE, mostly just for the health. Again, the effect res here doesn't really matter because the boss does ignore effect resistance. But yeah, pretty straightforward Achates, just there for the healing and the cleansing and the turn cycling. She can also have 100% uptime on non-attack skills because she'll use her S2 on herself, and it will make sure that she never actually attacks the boss in the weakened state. Alright, so moving on, we have Alots. Alots here is currently on just a speed set and whatever off pieces that are pretty fast. Try to build as fast of an Alots as you can. He's going to be turn cycling quite a bit and doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of getting your DPS to the front lines again and again and again. He's on a attack imprint for everyone on the team, or at least the front unit and the top unit there. The top unit is where I put my Sylvan Sage Vivian, which is a DPS, but the front unit, you're just going to have to waste those stats on Achates, but it's fine. It's worth it. Alright, the other thing we have is Spirit's Breath. So this is the artifact I'm running on him. Mine is not maxed out. If you have a maxed one, it is so much better. You have 100% uptime on your Alots' S2, and you never have to use an attack skill, which is very good. Occasionally you will want to use an attack skill on him, but you want to use that when you want to and not when you're forced to. But you'll see examples of that in the fight later on. But that's really all Alots needs, is a little bit of bulk and a ton of speed, as much as you can muster. Alright, next up is ML Luna. Now, if you don't have ML Luna, you can replace her with Aeola, is perfectly fine. You just kind of don't want these damage stats, really. I don't know, maybe try her with damage stats. Maybe she can do some chip damage. But honestly, you can probably build Alots with some damage stats too for chip damage. But yeah, he's usually continuously using his S2, so it's fine. New Moon Luna here is just on a kind of faster bruisery set. I just put as much speed as I can. Some of these were web event pieces like this one, that's why it like rolled perfectly. So I just kind of threw in some random DPS pieces that were fast enough to give her 100% crit chance and a little bit of crit damage. I tried to find ones that were more HP scaling oriented because she does still scale with HP. If your HP is a little low, like mine's 15k here, it's fine because again, you get a huge boost with your mage buff because she's a mage in the actual fight. Now, what I'm using is the artifact Our Beautiful Seasons. It does boost her damage by an extra 20%. She's not the main damage dealer, but her chip damage over the course of the match is going to be quite significant, especially because with her Molas here, sorry, you don't need the Molas here for this, but with her turn cycling with the combat readiness on her S2, it's going to be halved, but 25% combat readiness every single turn is amazing, especially because this skill is actually on a one-turn cooldown, so you can use it every turn because of that unique mage buff yet again. Alright, so moving on here, we're going to go and check out our Sylvan Sage Vivian. So Sylvan Sage Vivian is the main damage dealer here, so I have like web event pieces like this just to try to optimize my stats, but I do have some of my best and fastest DPS gear on her, along with Torrent Set. If you don't have Torrent Set, you can use Pen Set as well. Pen Set works really nicely for her because she hasn't been buffed yet, so when you pop your S3, it's a very long cooldown. Most of the time you're using your S1 to deal your damage. Obviously, you want to use Cruel Mischief for the extra damage dealt in Hall of Trials. This is better than Kaladra because you're really going to struggle to land debuffs on the boss. Now, in the weakened state, you'll probably have a better time getting like a debuff up on the boss, and then if you're on Rage set here with Cruel Mischief, or even if you don't have Cruel Mischief max, then you can use a max Kaladra, but Cruel Mischief is more consistent, by the way, just use this. But if you have a Rage set on your Sylvan Sage Vivian and you debuff the boss in weakened state, you might be able to squeeze out a ton more damage, but I haven't tried it yet, so I'm just showing you guys the run that I've had the most success with. Alright, but those are all the units, and that is what they're currently running, so let's go ahead and jump into the actual fight. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the actual run of this Hall of Trials with the Rampaging Abyssal Yufine. So as you can see here, she's going to start the match by whipping her S3, the thing that's on cooldown at the top over there. So we have about 3 more Yufine turns before she will unleash it again, and every time she unleashes it, she deals extra damage. The first thing I did was I pushed up my Achates so she can cleanse everybody. And by doing that, I made sure that we can start stacking. You can see the text above her, unequipped times 2, right? You want the unequipped times 5 to remove all those buffs. So by letting Achates go and cleanse, we can start kind of snowballing that effect right here. You see, I even take the Alots and I just use him to attack. Achates on Wondrous Potion Vault cleanses herself, and she could attack here as well. So we have her fully kind of unequipped here, right? We remove the 2 buffs. So the moment you remove those 2 buffs, when you're ML Luna, or you know, if you're playing on using Aeola, then you can use your S3, get that unbuffable. Yufine dispels it, but you see how much that exhaustion meter goes up, right? And so now, this is basically just a strategy of like, what do you want to do to maximize the amount of hits that you do to the Yufine, so that you actually get her into that weakened state. So instead of pushing up with Alots, I decided to just attack. I looked at the combat readiness bar, and my units are fairly fast for this team, so I decided to just go with Achates S1 and go with an MO Luna S2. And Luna can always S2, you'll never S1 with Luna, so if you're using her, just keep slamming that S2, it is perfectly fine. So I just kind of turn cycle the Luna here to get some extra damage while this Yufine is not in the weakened state yet. Achates gets really low there, so thankfully we are just a couple hits away from getting that weakened state, as you can see. Now unfortunately, and this was actually kind of bad, but I didn't get any other footage that's better. This was the latest one that I did, but that little dual attack there kind of cost me a bit of damage, actually. I did not want the dual attack right there. Because you can see the meter is increasing on that Abyssal Yufine. It's increasing rather quickly, too. It's not like the other Hall of Trials where you can get more hits in, or more turns in, I should say. And by turns, I say that because the meter only goes up on this Abyssal Yufine when you actually attack her. So I'm just slamming Luna S2s and Vivian S3 into her whenever I can. So as you can see, when Alots pushed up the Vivian, nothing happened. And same thing with the Achates. See the meter? Nothing happened. However, when they did the non-attack skill, you saw that on the Vivian there, we got this other undispellable buff. It actually just increases the damage that you do. You'll see it here. Look at that second golden buff right there, right? It increases the amount of damage that you do by 100%. So it is really good for your damage dealer in the I guess I should say top, not the back line, because Emma Luna's in the back, but you see that the Vivian's up at the top of the team. Okay, so that unit up top, every time you use a non-attack skill, she gets that buff that is used for 1 hit, and it increases your damage. Now you're probably wondering, why are you popping your non-attack skills here? What's going on? It's because this Yufine's actually just 1 hit away from getting her get out of exhaustion state. So I didn't want the Luna to proc it, so I used my Luna's S3 to kind of delay for a little bit. And same thing with the Achates, just healing. Alots pushed up. We got the damage buff on the Vivian, and she got that last bit of little burst damage. So I was trying to min-max there a little bit for that extra little damage. But essentially right now, what we're going to do is just going to see, my Alots didn't reset at S2 there, which is kind of unfortunate. I would have loved to push up the Achates there. But yeah, it would have been fine. Pushing up the Achates sometimes just helps your turn cycle a little bit more, but it's all good. Because we still have the S2 up, she's basically trying to reset her own cooldowns, and you're just going to keep slapping this Yufine over and over and over again. Here, see, even though Achates was going next, I push her up just to speed things up a little bit, and then Achates can go ahead and cleanse everybody, and we get that nice little heal. Now we're going to be starting to stack that unequip again, so this is the first hit, as you can see, or sorry, second hit, unequip times 2, and I'm going to keep trying to disarm this Abyssal Yufine. So it depends on what you want to do here. You could just S1 to get another guaranteed dispel, or what I like to do sometimes is push up the DPS units in the back to make sure you deal a bit of extra damage, right? In this case, I just went for the S1, and as you can see here, it's working out quite well. Achates with Potion Vial can cleanse herself, especially when she's the only one attacked by Yufine's single target attack, so you can use your get that extra unequip if you really need it there. This time around I just decided to S2 the Achates herself. I didn't need anything there, but you can see we already disarmed the Abyssal Yufine. We can push up the Luna, even though she was already going, but again, that extra little bit of combat readiness, extra turn cycling can help you just squeeze a little bit more out when you need it. The Abyssal Yufine is almost there in terms of getting to the weakened state. So we just keep attacking. You're going to notice that I do save Sylvan Sage Vivian's S3 for the weakened state, so you get that crit damage buff. It's really, really useful. Right? You get the extra damage on the Luna and the Vivian herself. So we're going to go ahead and just keep attacking her. This hit should, the next hit should actually bring her to the weakened state. I maybe misplayed a little bit there because, you know, I probably could have gotten her the full meter there, but I didn't end up doing it. I don't know if I attacked with Alots instead, maybe, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, the Yufine just deals more damage the more of those quote-unquote S3s she does, and it's perfectly fine, because Achates during this entire time is always using her non-attack skills and cycling, so we keep getting the heals up, so you'll be at full health before the next time that you attack here. So our ML Luna, she has no choice but to S2. I think our S3 is on cooldown, but you see we did get the crit damage buff here. Yeah, so our S3 is on cooldown. You'll never ever S1, so just go ahead and hit the S2. I tried clicking on the egg there, and you can't target the eggs in the weakened state. So, but you can do it on the you can do it during the normal phases. Alright, but whenever you can push up your DPS unit with Alots, you always want to turn cycle the Alots with the DPS unit so you get more powerful hits. And see, Achates is just going to kind of bide her time here and keep healing. So if my Vivian was on a rage set, it would actually be really nice if you tuned your team, right? So that your ML Luna can go for, let's say, an S3, you can put that unbuffable on that Yufine, and because there's a debuff there, the rage set will start kicking in, you'll deal extra damage. It is just, honestly, it's just kind of a weird little timing thing to do. It's a lot more things to juggle. You can get a lot more score with a rage set, but again, this is just kind of the best that I could muster at the moment. I spent about like 3 hours trying this team out and just kind of changing some gears. I started off with Vivian on rage and Luna on speed, but then I put Luna on damage, and then I put both units on rage. Didn't work out. I didn't have the debuff uptime, and then I switched to this one where both units were on speed, and it's working out quite well. But yeah, delay during the weakened phase with your non-attack skills so that your strongest DPS units doing most of the heavy hitting. And then we're just going to go ahead and try to close out this this fight here. Now, it does take a while. There's still a little bit more left, because I still have, you see the little purple circles under that weakened state bar, right? That exhaustion bar. That's actually how many times she can go into the weakened state. So even if you're super efficient at getting her into the weakened state, right, by continuously hitting her and unequipping her and disarming her, you can only do it 3 times, so it's not like you can just be super consistent and go into that weakened state like 5 or 6 times and deal massive amounts of damage. So there's still a limit to what you can do, you just have to kind of work within those limits. Alright, so yeah, continuing here, again, you see the turn cycling, it's just really quick. If your units aren't as fast, you might be able to actually speed tune the team better than I did. I did a little bit of tweaking with speed tuning. Achates was a little too fast earlier. I had her at like 260 something speed, slowed her down to what she currently is, like 240 something, and it's working out quite well. You see the potion vial cleansing the Sylvan Sage Vivian, which is kind of nice. If she was going next, you know, I wouldn't really have to be forced to cleanse and heal, but yeah, just little examples of that, why potion vial is okay. It did come up a couple times in this run, but I don't think it's consistent. Obviously because it's a random debuff that you're cleansing. So again, if you want to play around with Magara's Tome, Doctor's Bag, and stuff like that, feel free and let me know what you guys did in the comments down below. Because, you know, sharing some ideas and stuff can help advance strategies and help others kind of get to where they need to be. I know this is a very competitive thing right now because the Fates Days is really difficult to get, and you need 40 of them to purchase a single ML5EE, and that's not even going to guarantee that it has a max rolls on it, which kind of sucks. But so I know people are going to be gunning for the top slots here, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay in that top 5% to get the 40. There's no way I'm ever going to get top 3 or even the top like 1%. I'm currently there right now, but I bet in 2 weeks it'll be gone as more people develop strategies. But yeah, I'm gonna let the rest of this run play out. So if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, and of course subscribe for future updates on this run or future runs that come out later. If I get a better score, I will definitely let you guys know what I did and how I did it. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
よし、あいつ以上に戦ってみせるぞ。相手があなたで拒み手加減はしないわ。負けられないのです。女神様。しっかり見てて。どれだけ僕が戦えてるか。強いんだ。すべては女神様のために。お祈りの時間ですよ。しばらく見ないうちに。 こんなにあつれた私はあなたの姉ではない。だから私なんか忘れて帰りなさい。己の限界を試す。そうです。言ってくれれば何でもやるし、できるよ。勉強も復習もした。戦うほかないのだ。なるほど。どうしてここに私に近づかない。 治癒の力でお助けします。ごめんなさい。お待たせしました。しっかり見てて。どれだけ僕が戦えてるか。今だ。あなたに勝ち目はありません。お姉ちゃん。どうして。もうどこにも行けなかった。私の背負うべきものだという。